What's up, everybody, and welcome back to episode 4 of the Flying Knee KO podcast. My name is Victor Vasquez, here with you to try to go through this past weekend's fights, and we're actually going to be covering a lot of the great finishes from UFC 250 that just happened this past weekend. So this is only going to be an audio version of the podcast only. I know in episode 3, if you guys watched it, ended up doing a video with me and my friend, my first guest for this podcast, Ryan Saw. So if you haven't checked that episode out, go back, watch episode 3. And while you're at it, might as well just go ahead and check out episode 2 and episode 1. Anyway, back to episode 4 is what we're going to be covering today. So many great fights, so many great finishes. I mean, there was 7 total finishes on the main card, prelims and early prelims. So it was a great night of fights. And let's just go ahead and jump into it. Let's just jump into this first segment that I like to call.
I'm here with the winner, Derek Lewis. Derek, why'd you take your pants off? My balls was hot. I understand.
Derek Lewis giving us this first segment of episode 4, My Balls Was Hot segment. So let's go over the hottest news coming out of this past weekend. No question that the first one we got to talk about is Amanda Nunes, the GOAT of the women's division. And she is making her mark in the UFC and her legacy. But she was able to defend her featherweight title against Felicia Spencer from Canada. Not only was she able to defend it, she dominated Felicia Spencer round after round after round. I mean, as much credit and confidence that, you have to give Felicia Spencer. You can never overlook an opponent because any fighter in that cage has a chance to get a victory. She was going up a hill that she just could not climb. Amanda Nunes is just this unstoppable force. The way she just puts pressure on every single challenger. The knockout power, the power that you have to pay attention to because it's not only the right hand, it's both hands. You go to the ground and you're thinking, well, maybe I can out-grapple Amanda Nunes. Nope, she is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so she will just wreck you no matter where you are in that cage. So she actually becomes the third fighter to defend 2 different belts in 2 different weight classes. The other 2 fighters were DC, Daniel Cormier, and Henry Cejudo. But interesting fact is that Amanda Nunes becomes the only UFC fighter, only men or women, to defend 2 different belts simultaneously. So she is currently defending the bantamweight title, which she actually defeated Holly Holm, and then she defended against Felicia Spencer the featherweight title. So she's the only fighter to be able to do that. An incredible feat, and again, adding to her legacy. And it's just, again, a matter of time where you're going to have to come to a challenge, of like, okay, who's going to be that one fighter that's going to step up to Amanda Nunes? And right now, you look at the horizon for both the featherweight and the bantamweight division for women's, and you just don't see that challenger coming up anytime soon. So now the new challenge becomes for Amanda Nunes. What's next? Who else is she gonna have to fight? Who else is gonna have to step into that cage to at least try to contend for either title, featherweight or bantamweight? So maybe that'll be something that we talk about a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, again, no fighter comes to mind in either division that can help put on a challenge or try to dethrone her. If she had a bit more competition, obviously her legacy would be even greater than it is now. I mean, she already has one of the best resumes in beating Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Holly Holm, Chris Cyborg. I mean, there's so many names on it. Valentina Shevchenko twice. Again, those Valentina Shevchenko matchups were very, very close. She wasn't able to finish Shevchenko. That for sure has been her toughest challenge. But if she was to focus on one specific division, like if she were to focus on the bantamweight division and just try to defend that title over and over again, I could totally see her breaking Mighty Mouse's record of title defenses of 11, which is still held by Demetrius Johnson. So we'll see. We'll see how many years Amanda Nunes has left. She's about to be a mother that she is expecting with her wife. So we'll see how many years she has left fighting with the UFC. Should be really interesting, but it's always an honor and it's always great to see the GOAT of any sport. So it was really fun to see her Friday, last Saturday at UFC 250, and again, just a dominating victory. Second hot news that I wanted to go over was Cody Garbrandt, which possibly had one of the craziest buzzer beater KOs that we have ever seen, and possibly a potential KO of the year in the UFC. I mean, what better way to end your 3-fight losing streak than by getting a vicious knockout on the number 5th ranked bantamweight Rafael Assunção? I mean, this was a perfect result that Cody needed to get back his mojo. And I'm just excited to see what's next for him. I mean, the way that he was able to just kind of drop, if you guys were watching on the second round, last 10 seconds, he was just along the fence, kind of waiting, baiting Rafael Assunção to kind of get confident and get into his range. You could just see Cody kind of drop down and just no hesitation, throw that right hook, lands flush on the chin of Rafael Assunção, and he just ate the canvas, face planted right down, and it was immediately over. Walk-off KO. I mean, obviously, me as a fan, I got super excited. I've always been a big fan of Cody, but it was just good to see him back on the winning track, and now he's using the assistance of Mark Henry, so he kind of involved Mark Henry more into his camp, and now he's kind of getting, different aspects, and hopefully that different aspect and a different perspective from Mark Henry can kind of help him get back into winning ways. And again, that was just an incredible knockout by Cody Garbrandt. Obviously, it was very scary for Rafael Assunção after. I mean, they sat him on a chair, the doctors did, and he ended up falling over. So hopefully he is okay. But again, gotta shine a little spotlight on Cody Garbrandt in that bantamweight division. All right, guys, and another hot news that I want to finish off for this segment is Aljamain Sterling putting every bantamweight on notice by just putting away a very dangerous Corey Sandhagen, who was undefeated. He was just on a crazy streak. And just like that, in the first 3 minutes of the fight, he's able to sleep Corey Sandhagen with a rear naked choke. It was unbelievable, the amount of confidence that was oozing out of the Funk Master, Aljamain Sterling. I mean, it's something that Joe Rogan mentioned was that, and it was spot on by what Joe said, Aljamain controlled every minute of that first round and of that fight. And it just shows that he is clearly the number one contender in that bantamweight division. There is nobody else can come close to that number one contender title. To me personally, he should have been the one fighting Petr Yan for the vacant bantamweight title. Instead, they are going to give it off to Jose Aldo and Petr Yan, who actually was just announced today or yesterday as well by Dana White that Petr Yan and Jose Aldo will be fighting on Fight Island. So it's going to be very interesting to see what is going to be next for Aljamain Sterling. There is, we can talk about that in the next segment of when we predict, what these fighters are going to get. But again, Aljamain Sterling putting on a show, and he's just getting finish after finish after finish. And he's just on a mission, a man possessed to get that bantamweight title. All right, now that we got through the hot news, let's go in and discuss what my favorite fight was of the night in this segment that I like to call...
Let me bang, man. I want to do that, man. I do.
Julian Lane giving us the Let Me Bang Bros segment. And in this one, there was one specific fight in the prelims that just kind of got me so damn excited, and it got me on the edge of my seat. A lot of different fights got that same emotion out of me, especially when there was like the knockouts by Cody Garbrandt, or, even the submission by Aljamain Sterling. But the real fight that was back and forth, that was like a lot of energy back and forth by these two men, was Cody Stamann versus Brian Kelleher. I mean, both of these guys just had something to prove, trying to get their careers going, get another victory under their belt, and try to move up in the featherweight division. Cody actually coming up from bantamweight, so he was cutting a lot of weight, but last Saturday it just looked jacked, and it looked like he was fit for this 145-pound division. He ended up getting the unanimous decision, but it was just back and forth action between these two guys. I mean, beautiful feinting, beautiful head movement by Cody. He was just nonstop moving. Again, so much energy by both these guys. Neither one kind of showed off that both guys showed off their gas tank and did not show any signs of getting tired at all, breathing through their mouths heavily. None of that. And it's just great action round to round. And then again, Cody got to highlight the beautiful head movement. He landed some sweet strikes. In the second round, both guys started throwing bombs, trying to get the knockout. Kelleher was able to connect on a sweet right elbow and then a nice uppercut. But again, Stamann got the takedown late in that second round, got a bit of ground and pound, and you could see that he was kind of collecting those points and knowing that he's up on those rounds which led into the third round, which was actually the best round for Kelleher. He actually picked up the pace even more and landed a bit more on Stamen, but again, Stamen determined to try to get this victory. He ended up landing around 50% of his strikes when the bell rang, and he ended up getting, again, that unanimous decision victory. He dedicated that victory to his brother, who actually passed away last week, so very tough when a fighter has a family member or relative pass away, and not only to kind of still train and go through camp, but kind of go through that grueling process, even when you lose a loved one, is always so tough. But gotta give it up for these two men, Brian Kelleher and Cody Stamen, who just put on the best fight of the night in this UFC 250 card. And a shout out to Cody Stamen to see what is next for this young man. All right, now we got through the first two segments. Let's jump over to the next one. We will highlight the one fighter that we were not surprised by their performance in the segment that I like to call...
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Nate Diaz saying he is not surprised. Well, I think I agree with him. I am not surprised by this fighter. And there's no other fighter that you can have this type of expectations and kind of go in and thinking, you know what? It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. And that was Amanda Nunes. I mean, again, she's the GOAT, the lioness. She's been on a crazy streak since she became champion of the bantamweight division. And last Saturday night was just no exception. She just, again, put a beating on Felicia Spencer. And shout out to Felicia Spencer for, again, just showing that toughness. She showed that toughness when she faced off against Chris Cyborg last year. So you have to give her props for being able to withstand the punishment that both of those ladies put on her in the last two fights. And again, she didn't get rocked. I want to give credit also and put some shine and a spotlight on Felicia Spencer's chin. She has got to be the only woman in MMA to be able to take the power of not only Chris Cyborg, but Amanda Nunes, withstand that power, and not even get knocked down by either woman. So she probably ranks as number one or number two with the best chin in MMA. Probably the number one is probably tied with Tony Ferguson. But unbelievable toughness by Felicia Spencer. But you cannot just kind of gloss over the fact that Amanda Nunes, again, was just all over Felicia Spencer. She got a lot of control time, a lot of takedowns, landed some nasty ground and pound, some elbows. In the second round, Amanda Nunes got control, landed some right hands, and then got another takedown. I mean, Spencer did have her moments. She had a nice lead jab that kind of knocked the head back of Amanda Nunes, but other than that, it was all the Amanda Nunes show. She could have ended it early when she got a rear naked choke at the end of the third round on Spencer, right under the chin, but the bell ended up saving Felicia Spencer. But, that didn't change any of the mentality of Amanda Nunes, who in that fourth round, that round got even scarier. She mixed it up so well, threw body shots, landed head kicks, even hurt the lead left leg of Spencer after throwing so many kicks. Again, I'm going to reiterate, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I don't see who the heck is going to challenge Amanda Nunes for either the bantamweight or the featherweight title, especially considering that she is getting better in her MMA career. She just keeps evolving, keeps trying to improve her skills, and almost setting a goal for herself each fight to say, okay, you know what? How can I finish this opponent off even faster? What can I do to at least trip them up and beat them at their own game? She's done just so many different things. I mean, again, you look back at her career, knocked out Chris Cyborg, something that nobody thought was ever possible. She head kicked Holly Holm. Holly Holm just was obviously got more stardom after she head kicked Ronda Rousey. So Amanda Nunes, again, is just going to be on top of both divisions for a very long time until she decides, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to walk away, because I don't see any challenger in either division coming close to trying to dethrone her and take away those belts. And I don't think she's going to allow that either. All right, guys, we talked about a fighter that we weren't surprised of. Now let's go over to the next segment where we discuss a fighter that we were surprised by in the segment I like to call...
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that? You know damn well who I am. Who the fuck is that?
So who the F is that guy or girl, in which we will highlight a fighter that may have been overlooked, and there is just one guy that deserves this spotlight, and that is Sugar Sean O'Malley, the bantamweight, getting his second victory of 2020. And if you don't know, now you know. He started off that main card with a bang by knocking out Eddie Wineland, a veteran of the UFC, and he knocked him out with ease. Sugar Sean, again, looking to make a statement in this crazy bantamweight division. He ended up not fighting for almost 2 years because of suspensions by USADA, because of just different drug issues. And to him, that didn't change any of his mentality. He knew he just had to keep improving. And I mean, what better way to give a fighter, 2 years to just train and train and train and train and just continue to show that you can adapt your skills and just keep going, even though you're not getting cage time with other fighters. And again, he just goes and gets that finish in the first round by Eddie Wineland. He just landed a beautiful overhand right after he faked the uppercut with the right hand, fooled Eddie Wineland, had his hands down, and he just got all of that punch right to the chin and just completely slept him. So it's a great performance by Sean O'Malley, and I'm very interested to see who they're going to give him next. I'm going to probably give my prediction in the last segment, but still, there's just so much that potential that this guy still has, and he's even saying it. This is still the beginning. I still got a lot to show the world. I mean, he's been able to knock guys out. He doesn't even get out of the first round. That's how skilled this guy is. So he's still got a lot to prove. I'm really hoping to see him get challenged by someone that can push him into the later rounds, but I still don't think, cardio will be an issue for him, considering how much he trains, how he just continues, again, to work on every aspect of his MMA career. And again, it's just going to be very fun to watch. If you don't know this guy, well, now you know his name, Sean O'Malley, Sugar Sean. The Sugar Show is going to be very, very cool to watch the remainder of this UFC year. Another guy I want to give a shout out to for the honorable mention for this Who the F Is That Guy segment is Ian Heinisch. He was actually on the prelim card. He ended up getting a nice TKO victory over Gerald Michard. He landed another overhand right, finished him off with some ground and pound, and that was it. Again, in the first round, only took him 1 minute and 17 seconds. Again, very similar to the Sean O'Malley knockout. Ian ended up faking a level change, and instead of going down, threw that overhand right, which led to Mirsad just hitting the ground. As soon as Mirsad saw Ian Heinisch kind of drop his level, kind of ended up dropping his hands as well, opened up the chin, and that's all she wrote. Ian just ended that 2-fight losing streak and will definitely be heading back to Thailand. That's what they were mentioning in the broadcast, that he had trained for this fight in Thailand. Now a lot of guys just going to Thailand and working on their Muay Thai and hoping to kind of improve to get those finishes and get those victories that they're hoping to get. So I know that we're going to see Ian Heinisch head right back to Thailand to work on his game and wait for another middleweight challenge to kind of move up those rankings. So shout out to both guys, Sugar Sean O'Malley and Ian Heinisch. All right, guys, now we're headed to the last segment. And then this segment, we're going to try to predict some of the next fights for the winning fighters on the main card in the segment that I call...
Said I'd knock him out in the fourth round, and I knocked him out in the fourth round. You can call me Mystic Mac because I predict these things.
The Mystic Mac segment is here. This is the final one where we, again, will look at some of the outcomes and try to see what matchups we want to see for these main card fighters. So let's start off with Sean O'Malley, who got the victory over Eddie Wineland. Again, just kind of a little recap from this fight. Eddie trying to make the fight dirty. As the commentating team mentioned during the broadcast, Sugar had other plans, though, as he was able to just get a nice walk-off KO on Eddie Wineland. Everyone thought, well, this guy's going to get, the finish of the night, but I think there was another fighter who ended up getting a buzzer-beater KO that we'll probably discuss, and he ended up getting the finish of the night. But again, just a sweet knockout by Sean O'Malley. That's already 8 first-round finishes for Sugar Sean in his MMA career, and he remains undefeated at 12-0. I mentioned it earlier, the bantamweight division is thriving, and Sugar Sean, there's no other option but to have a number next to his name. He has got to be ranked. Even I'm still shocked that a lot of people don't know about him, but hopefully after that nice KO on Eddie Wineland, that'll hopefully get his name out there. So I for sure want to see him fight a ranked opponent. Personally, I would love to see Sugar Sean face off against Cody Garbrandt. Both guys just fought on this past Saturday. Both guys look like they didn't take that much damage, and I would love to see that matchup. I don't know if Cody would want to look down the rankings to face off against Sugar Sean O'Malley. I'm pretty sure Cody's trying to find a path to the bantamweight title. So he's trying to look for somebody that maybe ranked in the top 5. Just me being selfish, I would love to see that fight because it's just going to be a bunch of fireworks. Both guys are great knockout artists. They're both good with their hands. So maybe we'll get to see some type of, different game plan develop for either one of these guys. If the UFC doesn't want to do that, then, I would want Sean to get more victories before he faces off against former champions. I'd love to see him face off against Marlon Vera. He's ranked number 15, or Song Yadong, or even Cody Stamann, who just fought in the prelims as well. All of those would be very exciting matchups, and all 3 guys that I just mentioned are ranked opponents. So again, O'Malley should just be facing off against ranked opponents. That way he can kind of increase his ranking and try to see what chance he gets and how early he gets in his MMA career to fight for the bantamweight title. All right, next fight on the main card was Neil Magny versus Anthony Rocco Martin, welterweights, and Neil Magny ended up getting the unanimous decision. It was a great back and forth fight, very close to to decide. Wasn't that exciting as the Cody Stamann and Brian Kelleher fight, but still, both guys trying to get another victory. Very close first round. Martin trying to force the clinch, and even had Magny's back along the cage, but he didn't result into anything. Magny did a good job of landing great kicks to the body, nice little lead jab that kept Martin at a distance, didn't let him to kind of initiate his offense. Second round was another tough call as well. Martin was landing his best punch by getting a nice little counter overhand right every time Neil Magny tried to step in. And even Martin got a takedown. But again, similar to him getting the back in the first round, it didn't lead to much damage. And Magny, again, was able to land a few more kicks, a few more right hands. The most entertaining round for sure had to have been that third round. And again, Magny picking up the pace, kicking it into another gear. He outstruck Martin, and it could have been considered a 10-8 round because he was just doing everything, mixing it up. And you could just see Martin was just breathing very heavy. He just seemed gassed. He wasn't doing as much as he did in the first 2 rounds. He wasn't even clinching and trying to at least slow down Magny, get back his breath and get his energy back. So Magny ends up getting the unanimous decision. So to me, I would want to see Magny face off against another killer in this welterweight division. And I would want to see him against RDA, Rafael Dos Anjos. This would be the second time they would face off if the UFC ends up matching them. I feel like it would be a great fight for both men. Or even Anthony Pettis, who seems to be coming to the fact that, he's just going to stay at welterweight considering he doesn't want to cut any weight. So that'd be a very fun matchup to see. Neil Magny versus Anthony Pettis or RDA. All right, next fight I want to cover is Corey Sandhagen versus Aljamain Sterling. Oh, this one was so good. I mean, again, it only lasted 3 minutes, I believe. Corey Sandhagen, again, a killer in the bantamweight division, was on a 7-fight win streak. And just like that, Sterling gets another signature finish with the rear naked choke. I mean, as soon as the round started, the bell rang, and you could already see Sterling just trying to pace himself very quickly, trying to cut any angle off for Sandhagen. And as soon as he got a hold on Sandhagen, he transitioned to the backpack, went for the rear naked choke, and Sandhagen did a really good job on the ground at the beginning. He escaped the choke. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He was calm. He was not pressured. But then Sterling attempted to end the fight, rear naked choke with the right hand. And then the last second, switched it to the left hand. And then Sandhagen, you could see he's feeling, okay, you know what? It's right under the chin. Had to make a decision. Am I going to tap or am I going to get slept? And as soon as he moved his hand, ended up getting slept. And the referee ended up stopping the fight. Sterling just made it look so easy on a guy that everybody thought was going to be dangerous, including me. I was thinking Sandhagen was the future of the bantamweight division as well because he was just, his size, he's 5'10", one of the tallest bantamweights. His reach is crazy as well, but Sterling was just showing the whole world why this guy deserves a bantamweight championship. So Sandhagen just never had a chance to establish himself, which is unfortunate, but to me, this was a number 1 contender fight between Sandhagen and Aljamain Sterling, and the clear man won, and that was Aljamain Sterling. Such a great, fast-paced fight. And even Sandhagen said after the fight to Aljamain, you could hear it in the broadcast. He said, "Go get that belt." So a lot of respect, between these two men. And again, I wanted to be Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. That should have been the title fight that should have been set up on Fight Island by the UFC. Instead, they are going to give Jose Aldo the bantamweight title shot against Petr Yan. So it should be interesting. But no matter who wins, Jose Aldo, Petr Yan, does not matter. The next man in line is Aljamain Sterling. So Sterling is basically him versus whoever wins from this potential bantamweight title. Or even if somebody gets injured or can't make the fight or misses weight, I could totally see Aljamain Sterling stepping in and getting that title fight. So hopefully, I'm not saying that something bad should happen to either one of those guys, but I would love to see Yan versus Sterling for that vacant bantamweight title. All right, going over to the co-main event of UFC 250. It was Rafael Assunção versus Cody Garbrandt. This knockout is just, again, to me, this got me out of my seat. I was yelling at the top of my lungs because I was just, again, a big fan of Cody. He looked so much more technical than in his previous 3 fights. He threw a number of leg kicks that smacked the outside of Assunção's legs. He showed off the speed of his hands by landing a few straight rights. The second round was a lot closer. Assunção, was actually leading in significant strike, which is very crazy when I heard that stat that he was actually leading. And it was going to be a very intense third round, except for the fact that Nolov just gets the buzzer beater KO last seconds of the second round. And he lands a beautiful right hook that just, there was no escape for Rafael Assunção on that one. Cody just finishing it off and then just, again, showing the whole bantamweight division that, there's no stopping me. When I can set myself up, when I can find my mojo and get back to that Cody that beat Dominic Cruz and won the bantamweight title, there's no stopping that Cody. This could possibly be KO of the year. Again, we're only halfway through calendar year of 2020. There's still a lot of UFC fights to go, but this one is for sure an early contender of KO of the year. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Selfishly, I would love to see Cody versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. Seems like it would be a great barn burner of a fight. But I would actually want Cody to look up at the rankings, top 5, and I would want to see, him challenge himself again. Because I feel like when he challenges himself, he can stay focused. And again, learning all those different tactics and perspectives of Mark Henry is going to do wonders for him. So if they do actually give Cody another fight, I would want him to be, someone like Marlon Moraes. I would love to see that matchup because Marlon Moraes coming off of a loss against, actually ended up coming off of a win against Jose Aldo, but now Jose Aldo's getting the bantamweight title shot. So Marlon Moraes is still looking for a fight. So I would love to see Moraes versus Cody Garbrandt, and that would just be, again, another great determination to see who is next for the bantamweight title. All right, and here comes the last one of this Mystic Max segment. It is Amanda Nunes who defeated Felicia Spencer in 5 rounds, got a unanimous decision, dominant decision, but this is for sure the hardest one to call. Amanda's champion in 2 divisions, so you would think, you got a lot of prospects in 2 divisions to give Amanda Nunes, but she's already beat the top contenders in the bantamweight division, Holmes and Durandamy. In the featherweight division, there actually aren't any contenders. I believe Megan Anderson is one of the only fighters in the featherweight division for the UFC. And even she's not ready for Amanda Nunes. Currently, Irene Aldana, who is ranked number 5 in the bantamweight division, will be facing off against Holly Holmes in July. So that could be a potential contender if Aldana is able to get through Holly Holmes. That could be another bantamweight contender to face off against Amanda Nunes. There's also Aspen Ladd. She's ranked number 3. That would be a fresh matchup. Those are 2 potential contenders that can face off against Amanda Nunes, maybe if she wants to fight again this 2020. But I'm going to go with another selfish decision. I'm a very selfish person, so I want to see the trilogy. I want to see Valentina Shevchenko against Amanda Nunes. That is the biggest fight for either one of those women. And again, the fights currently are in favor of Amanda Nunes. She's won the last 2 against Valentina Shevchenko, but that last fight was very razor close. So, again, I want to see that trilogy. I feel like Valentina is going to be the toughest challenge of Amanda's career. And she's the only fighter at this point that at least can put some doubt in a lot of fans thinking, well, maybe, maybe she can get close this time. Now she has 2 fights to kind of look back at and try to see, okay, what do I need to improve on? What can I do? What can I do from all these fights and victories that I'm getting in the flyweight division that I can kind of, translate when I move up and gain weight for the 135-pound title. So I want to see that one play out, but we'll see what the UFC decides for Amanda Nunes. Even Joe Rogan in the post-fight press conference was like, who's next? Like, what do you do? I mean, what do you do when you have one of the greatest fighters of all time, the greatest women's MMA fighter of all time for sure? What do you give her when she's already cleaned out 2 divisions? And it's not fair that the featherweight division didn't really have that many prospects, so, you can kind of discredit that, but look at the bantamweight division. She's beat most of the top 5 in that division, and it's just not even close. So hopefully we get to see some contender, either Aldana or Aspen Ladd, step up and kind of prove that they can at least put some doubt in some fans' mind that they can actually contest and come close to dethroning Amanda Nunes. But I do not see that happening anytime soon. So why not just set up the trilogy, Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes? Let's do it. All right, guys. Well, that's all the segments that I wanted to go over. Very fun card to review. UFC 250. Probably maybe at the end of the year, I'll make a list of the best fight cards of 2020. So it should be a lot of fun to do. But yeah, this past fight card was just really, really good. A lot of great finishes. That buzzer beater KO by Cody Garbrandt. I cannot get that image out of my head because I was just in complete shock when he was able to land that. And you could just see maybe this is the catapult to kind of get Cody back into that stardom and get him fighting for another championship. But yeah, great night of fights, guys. If you are not doing anything on Saturday, there's going to be another fight night. It's actually going to be headlined by Cynthia Calvillo versus Jessica Evil Eye. So it should be interesting to see these 2 ladies face off in the main event. That's going to be at the UFC Apex as well. So another fight night. And I believe there's going to be multiple fights in the month of June. So it should be awesome to kind of cover those fights. And again, I'll be on the lookout to see who's going to be my favorite fighter of the night. Maybe a crazy knockout that happens as well. So if you guys aren't busy on Saturday, make sure to watch UFC Fight Night. Going to be headlined by Cynthia Calvillo and Jessica Evil Eye. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to episode 4 of the Flying Knee KO podcast. My name is Victor Vasquez. You guys stay safe out there and make sure to, if you haven't checked out, I had my first guest on episode 3, Ryan Saw. Make sure to check that episode out, guys. And keep on the lookout for episode 4. Thanks, guys, and have a great rest of your week.